said the meeting was inspired by one of the Michaels in the group saying, let's have a meeting on humor, because a lot of non-duality can sometimes seem like teachings. And actually, there's a lot of the light-hearted side of it can be so wonderful to recognize. It can be that sort of I was talking to Sylvana about it earlier, that kind of recognition of you've been looking for your glasses for so long, and then you realize that they were on your nose the whole time. And it's a sort of feeling. It's almost like a relief. Oh my God, I don't have to run around in circles anymore. I don't have to do that. You know, there was never a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Thank God I can just put my feet up, or I can just it takes a pressure off the end of sort of seeking something in that way. But it's quite funny, I guess, when you really realize that that's what the mind's been doing. It's been trying to latch on to things in order to satiate it. And it's sort of, you can, when you observe it, when you just sort of watch it in that way, it can sort of seem, the cat chasing its tail. We all have a good laugh at it. So yeah, hopefully people will enjoy this topic and explore it from the angle that we're coming at from. So yeah, I think that's really it. That's why we're having the meeting. We don't need to do the hands up, but if people want to say something, obviously you can put your hand up or you can just jump in. We'll see how it goes, shall we? And go from there. I have nothing else to say.
Uh,
Michael.
oh, humor. What is humor? It makes us, it throws a wrench in our loop of thinking, our self-referential loop. It tips us off balance for a moment. Um, some people think it's nervousness, it's anxiety. Um, Laughter could be showing our canines. I don't know. Um, a release of tension. Um, we're so beautifully complex, we can never understand who or what we are, what's going on. I love humor. My son makes me laugh so hard that I can't breathe sometimes. We do it for each other, this gift of humor. I think it tips us out of our routine. Um, and that's freeing for a moment. It frees us from the record that's skipping thought loops of thought. Whatever it is, as I get older, I love it more and more. The laughter, the shared. Uh, I don't know. No one knows really. I doubt if it can be. Well, it can't be known, but it can be enjoyed.
Yeah,
So
you go.
what was Michael's question? It was is laughter the part, what was his actual question? Is
It
laughter
was
the
I was
path to
I was
enlightenment? Was it?
I was just going to
Mm.
say, now there's sort of everyone's got the no one's saying anything because everyone's like, well, I can't be funny on command. I don't. It's
Why
that's
is he
not the
why is he
invitation
not
for us all to have a circle.
why is he not here to defend his
Hmm.
question? But I think it was is laughter the path to enlightenment? Was that the question? Was that the
I think
proposal?
it was more of a sort of invitation to take it a bit less seriously. Um,
Mm.
and that was it. But in doing so, it's sort of, I mean, this is why these meetings are interesting. And Tony, I think you're quite right that, sometimes having a topic can almost feel like it can sometimes restrict the conversation, because actually if it was a genuine non-duality discussion, it would be absolutely totally free. Sometimes when you have a sort of, oh, okay, we're talking about humor, okay, let me think of a joke, what can I possibly say? And it might
Oh,
sort
you
of
mean
remove
like
some
the
of
one
that
I
natural
you mean like the one
spontaneity.
I had? You mean like the one I had?
You mean the one you had?
Yeah, the
Well,
one
it was
question.
just non-duality. It
No,
wasn't
Claire,
non-duality and making the perfect omelette.
Yes. Well, you
Claire,
liked that
Yeah.
meeting,
what you
Rosa.
sent
Yeah.
me, this beautiful picture, was non-duality and humor. What could be funnier than enlightenment?
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
if enlightenment is everything, then absolutely nothing. What could be funnier than that? Sylvan has his hand up, so maybe there'll be something
Yes,
wise.
I'm very good at putting my hand up, you know. Now, what
Very
about
good.
actually, when we talk about humor, I'm French, okay? And I think that actually humor is very much different from one place to the other. What some people think funny, some others don't think funny at all. So it is a bit difficult to, I mean, having said that, everybody likes to have a laugh. It seems to be the recipe when something goes wrong in life, that humor is of great help. It depends what people think funny and what's not funny. And very often, humor really takes the mickey about things. It's almost a hidden criticism, or, you know, trying to show something is not actually as serious as people want it and make to be. I remember in particular, I was in the army many centuries ago. I can't remember when it was, but one of the guys I was sharing a dormitory with was an undertaker before he came in the army, and he was absolutely obsessed by death. And you know, in the army, we've got the bunk beds, and they used to organize a bunk bed into like a coffin, really. So he pretended there was somebody dead in it, and he made a whole ceremony. I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, but not funny, if you see what I mean. So maybe for you that doesn't sound funny at all. But it was very funny to me. How do we manage that in real life?
Yeah. Don't worry though, Sylvain. It's not the French, it's the Germans who don't have a sense of humor. So
I mean, the British are
well,
really
that was a joke because that's supposed to be about humor, right? So
the British have got actually
is that true, Rosa?
very, very good humor. The sense, the sense
It's
of
very
humor.
dark. It's a
Johnny,
very dark sense of
I,
humor.
I don't feel like being German, to be honest.
Well, you're not German in this meeting.
Well, okay, just because, well, I don't know. But Sylvain, what I wanted to say is that I noticed when shit hits the fan here, I
What is
could
here?
not but laugh. So the whole seriosity turned into an absolute joke. Absolute laughter. It was impossible to take it seriously anymore because it was already unbearable serious.
Yeah. So
And
you
then
think
the opposite booms out like, wow, what a
is that
joke.
the defense mechanism?
Whatever coping mechanism, body reaction, like because it's not anymore, it's not able to hold it, the pressure or whatever, and then the energy shifts into the opposite, just like a relaxation. Like this body is conditioned, like in a way, the survival mechanism plays automatically. But this I noticed, so to say.
Dave had his hand up. Dave's got a very good sense of humor.
Yes, so we can't see his head, so only his hand can talk. Talk to the hand, Dave.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, well, humor. It's got a lot of different aspects, hasn't it? The laugh a minute guy down the pub who can't stop cracking jokes and guffawing at his jokes. He does that because he's not at peace with himself, and it's part of his keeping everybody at a distance. That's not humor. Well, it depends how you define it, I suppose, doesn't it? So I think one cause of laughter is perhaps ceasing to be at peace with yourself and with your thoughts, and it's an explosion as a result of that. Running into paradoxes. or conflicting ideas, which appear to be incongruous. These are all things that don't add up in ourselves. So when we run headlong into two incongruous and conflicting things that don't add up, quite often accidentally in conversation, laughter is the result. I can remember a time when, inspired by Aldous Huxley mentioning something which he referred to as isness, which I think he was taking from, I can't remember, a 17th century cleric who also mentioned it. Might have been called Eckhart, actually, Meister Eckhart. And it dawned on me like a ton of bricks that things just are what they are. And I was hysterical with laughter for what seemed a whole evening. And I still remember I kept repeating that it just is. And the immensity, if you like, or the ridiculousness of the discovery seemed funny. And it was deep and it was profound, and it was as deep and profound as anything. But it was also incredibly funny. And I think there's a laughter, there's humor that comes from seeing that it doesn't matter how hard you try, and we often seem to do that on here. How hard you try to make things add up by catching them in words, concept, ideas, and what have you. And sometimes the ridiculousness of it, delightful, sort of comes through. And I have got into the habit for a little while now of when a post or something comes my way which is too introspective, intricate, unnecessarily complicated, I tend to react by saying I'm a banana, because the ridiculousness of it sort of appeals to me. And I remember a conversation with a girlfriend years ago where I was trying to elucidate some esoteric point which seemed important to me. And she said, "You may as well just call it a banana fritter. It doesn't matter." And the lunacy of it was appealing. And I think there's a particular sort of humor. I mean, I think I refer to it as psychedelic humor. My son shares it as well, I notice. But it's not just to do with psychedelics. It's to do with perhaps non-duality, seeing the incongruity, whatever, of things, of everything, the lunacy of it. And Clare's book is the whole thing is a lunatic romp through a stage production. It's as lunatic as anything can be, and delightfully so. And that lunacy says so much. What it says is instead of approaching the subject head on and banging on about what love is and what God is and what your brain is and what thoughts are and whether I exist and whether I don't, that's really like trying to beat your enemy with a club, whereas it's much more elegant to kill him with a rapier, and the rapier is humor, and you go for it from the side. It's like night vision. You can't see it by staring straight ahead. You have night vision. You see out the side of your eyes, and as long as you don't put your torch on and you don't try and hit the thing head on, you can see perfectly well in almost complete darkness. And humor is that thing. Humor is that thing that hits it from the side and hits it so much more effectively than these full-on serious head-on attacks with a club, instead of a really neat sideways approach with a rapier, so much more elegant. It's tempting to say that he's just as dead whether you hit him with a club or a rapier, but I don't think the club kills him properly. The rapier, snuck in sneakily with humor, to me, gets it much more often. it makes me chuckle anyway. Um, all the stuff that I post, I don't know if it makes anybody else laugh. It makes me laugh, and that's good enough for me. I do it because it makes me laugh. And sometimes I do actually burst out laughing at something that I've stuck there that makes no sense and is totally ludicrous. Um, Saying in answer to somebody's serious post, I think I'm a banana works for me. It's simple and it's stupid and it's ridiculous. And it says as much as anything else.
I was going to say the exact opposite, actually.
I'm sure
That
you are.
there's more laughter when you're relaxed, when you're at peace. Because you said that laughter arises when there's no peace, which interesting. I would say there's more laughter and more humor when you're actually at peace, when you're content, when you're relaxed. I think that's when laughter naturally flows,
It
when
both
there's contentment.
both situations, I think, cause laughter, but they're different sorts of laughter. The
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
you
There
can
can be a nervous kind of laughter, and
Exactly,
yeah,
that's
sure.
exactly right. You can laugh because things are so blissful and because they've come together so delightfully and so easily, and you're laughing at delight at the simplicity and the depth of the thing. And it's a very happy, satisfying sort of deep laughter. Um, but you also laugh as you when you're ceased to be at peace with yourself. It's a different sort of laughter. You laugh out of nervousness. The guy who's doing that laugh a minute stuff down the pub is fucking tiresome, and you wish he'd shut the fuck up. But he can't help it because he's not at ease with himself, and he'll do it all evening. He'll crack jokes and he'll guffaw, and you're thinking, shall I go home or shall I pour my beer down the back of his neck and that'll make me laugh? Or what should I do about this because it's so tiresome? So different sorts of laughter, I think, Tony.
It means
Yeah,
to
yeah,
laugh
I
all the
understand
time.
that.
Happy or unhappy is good for a laugh.
Happy or unhappy, yeah.
I think that actually the book, the Stooge written by Clare, has got a huge quality of expressing some sort of understanding that there is no point of searching because we'll never find the answer, and we are being silly, keep looking for it. And I think that's really for me the humor which appeals to me because it not only is funny, but it's actually help us think more clearly about what we do in daily life.
There's comedy in that, isn't there?
Exactly.
I mean,
Same.
here we are talking quite sensibly, and none of us is having a laugh, none of us is cracking jokes. And I mean, that in itself is kind of comic, isn't it? Considering the topic.
I meant to ask Chat GPT for some non-duality jokes, but I never got round to it. But also, it's a cultural thing, isn't it? Because, like British humor, for instance, you can talk about British humor having this particular quality of taking the piss, being sarcastic, and there are a lot of traits in British humor that you might not find, in other cultures. So there's that too.
I think we sort of have the ability to laugh at ourselves in the UK. There's a real sort of self-deprecating kind of humor.
There's that,
I mean,
yeah.
in America, I've noticed it's almost sort of encouraged to be ambitious, to be confident, to put yourself out there. It's maybe sort of part of the capitalist system, the American dream. It almost feels like it's a good thing to put yourself forwards and to go for it and to be confident. But any sort of suggestion of confidence or authority or someone who knows something in England, oh my God, they get absolutely rinsed. And I think, or the idea of authority as well. I mean, we have the royal family, so maybe it's something as well that kind of we've got this rebellious undercurrent who kind of has always just sort of poked fun at, the king and the queen. There's a TV series called The Royals, which is just a big piss take out of the royal family, and it does very well. So it's something about kind of authority and, that sort of serious situations, like church and funerals, and, everyone must be very serious. And, there's always that sort of kid at the back who's there laughing at the words in the hymns and stuff, in morning assembly. And you sort of you have to do that, I think. I think that's the humor, just sort of really seeing through the ridiculousness of the system and the structure, which is so English. We're such an old country. I think maybe that's what it is as well.
I just thought of something that typifies German humor. You'll know this, Rosa. every New Year's Eve in Germany, German television shows that little comedy thing called Dinner for Two. Do you know what I mean? You know that one?
Tony, so it's dinner for one, I guess, or dinner for
Oh, Dinner
two?
for One. Yes, Dinner for
But
One. Yes,
but
Dinner for
but
One.
but to be honest, sweetheart, I haven't watched TV maybe for I don't know. I'm
Mm.
simply not watching TV. But yeah, I'm simply the wrong German you are addressing. Really,
Yeah, oh
believe
yeah,
me.
okay, you're the wrong German, yeah.
It's
But
here is no
anyway,
sense of being German, really. Zero,
yeah, yeah,
zero.
yeah. But I actually saw that once when I was in Berlin,
Mm?
and it's shown every New Year, and it's a very slapstick kind of thing, and it's about this sort of waiter who's
Mm?
drunk,
Mm?
and he's serving dinner, and it's very kind of slapstick kind of comedy. And I thought, well, that's interesting that German TV shows that every New Year's Eve, and that's a particular kind of humor.
By the way, I'm watching a lot of German comedy. And I also, because I have
Is there
friends
any?
from the UK, they sent me UK comedy. It's
Oh
a
yeah.
little bit the cool guys are very fast and very spoiled. I'm not getting the jokes
Oh
sometimes,
yeah.
but in
Yeah.
German I understand everything, and I would really say, wow, Germany is beautiful with the humor. I'm just crying, really crying. I cannot but cry when watching
And
the comedy.
Germans really like Monty Python as well, which was a surprise to me when I found that out, because I thought that probably wouldn't work very well. But
We had
yeah,
a train of hands, and Michael, you've dropped out of the chain, so I'm assuming that whatever you were going to say has long since left you, unless there was anything you can remember. Uh,
you got to butt in, Michael.
Um, we name a spontaneous reaction, and then it becomes a thing. And then we try to analyze the nature of this object. Uh, I I doubt if we can ever know what humor is. My son sent me a video of a chiropractor working on an elderly lady, and he's adjusting her neck, and then somehow he throws her up into the air, and she crashes into the wall behind. And I couldn't stop laughing. My wife, who doesn't relate to our sense of humor, started laughing also. And I was thinking it was an unexpected thing. It's a chiropractor's office, elderly, who was it was it was beautifully done. And well, I'm laughing now about it. It was just really funny, but I think it was just totally unexpected, and it threw me out of my loop-de-loop thinking. But as humor as an object, we'll never know what it is because that's just a label given to a spontaneous brain reaction. And we can never understand, I don't think, anything about ourselves through labeling all of these reactions, things. David, you were next, I think.
Thanks, Michael.
Uh, uh,
David.
Yeah. Well, so far we've only talked about laughter, which is just one aspect of humor. For example, I have taken on occasionally to putting some comment or post or whatever and not using emojis and just leave whoever's reading it to make what they want of it. um, and and I can see that in doing that, because of the limitations of the words, that probably what I've written could be taken in one of several ways, only one of which is humor. And I do that on purpose because it gives people something to do, doesn't it? I have a friend who regularly complains that because I will say something that amuses me with a straight face, because I can't be bothered to crack a smile, it's simply laziness. It's not for effect or anything. And she, to me, doesn't get that I'm deliberately being stupid or saying something that I think is funny or whatever, because I'll just do it with a straight face, and I simply do it because of laziness of my facial muscles, and that's all. And there's humour which you quietly appreciate to yourself, maybe whilst you're talking about something else. It's not Laughter is the most crude outward expression of conflict inside yourself, and it doesn't have to be expressing that, of course. um, the the thing that we haven't discussed so far yet either is unkind humour. So the old lady slipping over on a banana skin. I mean, that's awful. She could break her hip, go to hospital, and die of the resultant MRSA. But watching her go arse over tit and fall on the floor um, makes us laugh. But it's not actually funny. It's a tragedy, and there is so much there is so much that we laugh at, which is tragic. Um, uh, Two fat ladies running across the road from opposite directions, colliding into each other. It was some video clip I saw earlier on, and the resultant sort of collision in the middle of the road. I mean, you're talking broken bones and heart attacks and traffic holdups and everything, but it just looked funny. And it made me laugh, and I even passed it on to somebody else because I thought it was quite comical. I mean, that's really crude. Um, it's not subtle humor, but it's tragedy. But we laugh at that as well. We will laugh at things depicted in video clips that are actually cruel, that are all sorts of any number of negative things. Those things make us laugh as well. I think it's because of the conflict, and that comes back to laughing out of being uncomfortable with yourself because there's a conflict going on. You're looking at something which is unusual, which is amusing in principle, but which is also tragic, and possibly the difference um, between those two things colliding in your head um, makes you laugh. It's almost like a sneeze. I remember the chap that I used to fly with. He was particularly uncomical about anything. He was very. I got on okay with him, but he was always very deadpan, and I thought that he was too repressed. And we were going somewhere, and some little thing happened on our journey, and I can't remember what it was. It was of no consequence, but it appealed to both of us at the same time. And those very rare times when you're not just having a bit of a laugh, ha ha ha, but we were both of us at the same time absolutely helpless with laughter. We didn't know what to do with ourselves, tears rolling down our cheeks, and we'd even forgotten about flying the flipping aeroplane. We were completely gone with this stuff. And I just liked what he said when it all subsided. He said quietly, he said, "That was really good." He said, "I really needed that." And it was so nice to hear it from him because all the time I've known him for years, he'd never been able to let go. He was always so controlled. And so, and it had the same quality as a sneeze. Once it's gone past a certain point, there's nothing you can do. And the delight is it being out of control. Apparently orgasms are the same. But that hasn't happened for a little bit, but there's a point of no return. And I think that's another type of laughter where people like the abandonment to the thing. So it's a kind of freedom and opening of doors. But there I am talking about laughter again. I started off talking about humor and no laughter. Everything goes in circles, doesn't it? Thanks for listening. That's it.
Thanks, Dave. Rowena?
Yeah, so just carrying on a little bit from Dave and also Michael. Okay, so laughter, that's the unexpected quality. And I had in mind like comparing when I used to go to New York and go into the subway. And you would turn a corner and then there was music playing, and it just sort of takes your breath away because you don't know what music you're going to get, which is why I like sort of playlists on Spotify, because you never know what you're going to get, and and then when all of a sudden it's completely unexpected, but something funny happens it's not humorous necessarily, and I don't really think it's a conflicting moment, but there's something happened. It can be in a way a bit serious, but a bit like the sneeze Dave was referring to. It's so deep-bellied that it's yeah, that's so there's a whole different grades of where laughter comes from. And sometimes with humor, I think it's a little bit one's mood, and how relaxed you are, or what's receiving. And so just my own little experience recently with my 4-year-old grandson, who wants space. He wants his mummy, so I have to go in my bedroom, and so I'm banished. And then I can come out and play. And then, no, I want space, go. And I mean, the humor, for me, it was so humorous. It was so beautiful to watch this little child, just sort of trying to control his environment and me, and telling me what to do. And there's this just the humor in these daily little things. People, yeah, I find that beautifully humorous, but I didn't necessarily laugh. I just thought it was so sweet and lovely. Anyway, that's my contribution.
Thanks, Verena. I was going to talk about defensive laughter actually, and using humor as a defense, because I feel like this is something a lot of people can maybe fall into the trap of, and it's kind of almost hiding what's really going on, through the sort of forced laughter, as Dave was saying, the chap in the pub, and it can work because we're taught from a young age that people like it's happiness, isn't it? You're laughing and you seem to be happy, and that can kind of indicate that you're likable, you're an optimistic person. It's a good thing, and I think that's a cultural thing as well. We're more drawn to people who are smiling and upbeat and laughing than we are to somebody who's got a face like thunder. You're going to be naturally more attracted to that. So it could also be a sort of survival mechanism. My family's Irish, and they just love nothing more than a funeral, because it's almost like it's their chance to sort of actually they it's this kind of dark stuff that almost it allows them to sort of access this thing in them, which is I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it almost sort of unlocks some humor, unlocks the ability to have that parallel. That's something incredibly sad, as Dave was saying, the lady in the banana skin, something really quite tragic, almost allows them to access the total opposite. The fact that we're just not in control. Death is the ultimate loss of control. And when we're faced with that, it can sometimes be a bit hysterical. And the word hysterical as well, somebody who's in hysterics, they're either sort of a bit mad or they're laughing, and maybe it's sort of the same thing. Maybe that's all enlightenment is. It's this kind of totally losing your mind. There's a lot of drink at these things as well. There's this sort of just, I can't be in this reality of this death, this loss, this terrible thing that is happening to me. So it's almost like something bursts, something breaks, and there's a genuine humor, there's a genuine loss of control, or there's that, oh my God, I can't deal with this. I'm going to laugh because, it's a defense. I can't quite bear the emotions that are underneath that. So anyway, Dave, you've got something to say. I'll stop there.
Makes a change, doesn't it, for me to have something to say?
So your hand was up.
It was, wasn't it? I was I was thinking that I think I can't remember exactly the title that you put on this, but I think it was to do with how humor relates to non-duality. And we've been talking about humor for sure, and we're all familiar with it. I'm not quite sure how to answer how it relates to non-duality, because it relates to so many other things. I mean, humor exists on its own, without, well, deliberately relating it to non-duality. And an appreciation of non-duality can also exist quite happily without humor having to be part of it. So in a way, it's something which is a bit on the sidelines, isn't it? But I'm not, I don't have any wisdom about that. I don't have an answer for it. It's just passing thought.
Non-duality is funny, Dave.
Hey, what are you laughing at?
And non-duality, I think it's very funny.
It is because it's a mess of paradoxes and contradictions.
Completely, yes.
And I mean, they're delightful. It appeals to my. I mean, I think I got an obscure sense of humor anyway, in the paradoxes and contradictions that you find in non-duality. They're right up my street. I like it. Um, I do notice that people quite seriously try to square all these and try to square the circle, and account for the sort of differences. But it's a vain task. I mean, it's never going to happen, and that's what's so nice about it. I remember one of my patients, she was married, it was Kay, she was married to Dick, and Dick was a very clever chap, could do anything, knew everything about everything for real. And he was serious as a stone, so it seemed. His wife, he never prompted me when I saw her for the first time. And I think she was actually a bit loopy, but all I could ever get out of her was this absolute lunatic, hysterical laughing. And because I'm trying to do something for a denture, I need to ask her questions and get some sort of answer. And she wasn't providing it. All I was getting was this lunatic laughing. You could have heard her down the road. And Dick was sitting in the next room and he wasn't coming to rescue me. And I didn't know what the hell to do with her. So I had to guess. I mean, I think something we haven't mentioned is the effect that chemicals have, here we go again, on humor. Um, People that have, I mean, alcohol affects people in different ways. Some people get maudlin, some people get nasty, some people get comical, and some people go to sleep. As I remember, I was in the latter category and I would always just go to sleep, which is probably just as well for those around. But alcohol is one thing. Um, I think people find it a bit of a laugh inhaling helium because it tightens the vocal cords, so it makes people squeak. It's a squeaky, gives them a squeaky voice. Um, I think that cannabis again is like alcohol in that people can find everything hilarious and have an absolutely hilarious evening, or they can have a very sort of introspective, deep and to them profound evening. I never found it so. I always found it kind of just dopey and smoky. I was never very impressed. I was remembering though, chemicals. One evening, I was at a festival somewhere, and I was sat in a teepee with a bunch of other people, and we were all playing with some psilocybin, which, as you know, is the active constituent of magic mushrooms. And we were hysterical about nothing in particular. It was, I can't even, it was so little, I can't remember, but we were all setting each other off, and it was like a whole box of matches going off together. And another chap, Peter, came and stuck his head in through the flap in the tent and looked around in amazement and said, "What on earth are you lot doing?" He said, "I could hear you from across the site." And then he looked around and he said, "It's bloody horrible in here. What are you doing?" And we looked around and we were sat on this bare plastic floor and it got puddles of water on it. We hadn't noticed because we were absolutely hysterical. And it was the effect of the psilocybin. And I think it's well known to, amongst other things, have that effect. So laughing gas, which I used occasionally when I was dentist, I never found it but particularly funny. I mean, we were told to try it when we were students, just so that we knew what personal hell we were suffering our patients to suffer. And it was novel, but it didn't make you laugh particularly. It was dissociative, and it was an aid to suggestibility. So with nervous kids, for example, you could, I don't know, you could take them on a spaceship ride, but in actual fact, you're just getting on with drilling a tooth or something. So laughing gas, despite the fact that it's called laughing gas, maybe other people have found it funny, but all my experience of was that it was good as a dissociative, no good as analgesic. It made no difference to people's sensation of pain, and it wasn't miserable, but it wasn't fun either. It just had a different use. So chemicals, that's another that has an effect on humor, laughter, perspective. I suppose it can alter your perspective in such a way as you find something funny that you might not otherwise find funny. Just that really. Okay. Thanks for listening.
But can I just say, because you said you were in a teepee. Did you
Yes.
say you were in a teepee? Well, you just reminded me of a joke. So look, this is about humor, so I might as well tell this joke. So this guy goes to the psychiatrist and he says, look, I'm having these really strange dreams. And the psychiatrist said, well, okay, well, what have you been dreaming about? And he said, well, a couple of nights ago, I dreamt that I was a teepee. And the psychiatrist said, oh, well, that's interesting. I mean, have you had any other strange dreams like that? And he said, yeah, last night I dreamt I was a wigwam. And the psychiatrist said, yeah, oh, yeah, I know what your problem is. He said, you're too tense.
Are we supposed to laugh out of politeness at that, Tony, or are we supposed to groan, or are we
Up
supposed to
to
pretend?
you.
Are we supposed to pretend that you never said it? Well, we want to be polite here, see, for a change.
Well, it's up to you. I mean,
I think we're
anyway,
going to
yeah,
move
so-
on quickly to Michael.
It's nice how it's too tense. Too
Thank-
tense.
Thank you for being
Nice.
brave.
yeah,
Yeah.
what was some, David, didn't you get it?
I did, but thank you for being
Yeah,
brave
you didn't.
to tell us such an awful joke. Yeah, I mean,
Actually, yeah, talk. I mean, on a similar theme, Michael, you know Bob Newhart, the American comedian, Bob Newhart. Do you remember that sketch he did, the psychiatrist sketch, where this woman goes in and she's got these problems, she's claustrophobic or something, and he says, "Well, I'm just going to tell you how to deal with it with 2 words." And he says, "Stop it." It's the "stop it" sketch. Do you know that?
Yeah.
He says, "Just stop it."
But he
And
yelled.
she says, "Well, that's it." And she says, "Well, I've got these other problems." And he said, "Oh, well, what you have to do is this. Listen carefully. Stop it." Brilliant sketch.
that is so nice, because I was having this conversation with somebody recently. Supposing you've just been having a flaming row with your girlfriend, boyfriend, uncle, whatever, bloke next door, and it's just going round in circles like these things do. If it occurs to you, and it's possible to do it, is to say to the other person, how's about we just stop this right now and just carry on as if all this aggro hadn't been happening. Let's just stop it right now and be friends. And if both people want to do it, you can do it in an absolute second. You can do it instantly. And that actually makes you laugh as well at the ridiculousness of the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Michael.
Stop it.
Something that Claire and David said. To me it seems, or it feels like a temporary reprieve from the illusion of control. We are so tightly controlled in a society, not to say this or not to say that, not to do certain things that might offend others. We're constantly. I watched a baby stuck their finger, and the baby's finger in its own nose, and the mother slapped the hand. We're not allowed to do certain things in public. We're constantly in control, and laughter feels like a temporary release of that control, a cleansing, a lightening up, a joyful expression of a toddler. I love laughter. I love that feeling. That's what it feels like here. Just a release of the illusion of control. And in that sense, I could see laughter be a path to enlightenment in a way that we what we can loosen up. I don't worry about what I say anymore, or what comes out, or what I do. It seems so easy now at 82. Rosa has her hand up.
Michael, sweetheart, you're killing me.
Oh,
So I simply want to share that in a way, when the seriousness dropped here, so to say, when I could not take myself seriously anymore. We can say when I saw through the illusion of me. Whatever I say, it's not going to match it. But nevertheless, I'm just blubbering. And it means nothing. And this is in a way the joy. That's the joke, that's the humor, that's the fun. And yes, sometimes I have hard times to react accordingly to the society when I'm maybe, somewhere where I'm not allowed to laugh because maybe this is going to cause trouble due to the way society plays. So yeah, I will try not to laugh, but laughing may happen, and maybe also on a funeral. And that's in a way the joke when you cannot take things seriously anymore, and nothing makes sense. I would say, yeah. And the same with the opposite, with sadness. Maybe I don't know what is the opposite of humor. Like in a way, everything pops up filterlessly, smiling, laughing, humor, crying, everything. It's full on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think what Michael said and what you're saying as well, Rose, that, it's our human expression. It's our sort of our emotion, our expression of our humanity. And we're talking about humor. There's in psychology, Jung had archetypal ideas. People might know about this as well. And one of them was the jester. The jester is an archetype in Jungian psychology, and it sort of tends to be associated with the shadow, which is quite interesting. It's that sort of trickster energy, which can kind of appear to sort of trip one up. And it kind of almost dismantles structure. So it gets a bit of a bad time of it because it's the energy of it is that sort of destructive, that more chaotic, that more wild, that more free energy, which appears to be in conflict with what you might call the sort of what society likes, because we like control, we like certainty, we like to have our 9 to 5 jobs, we like to have our weekends. We all put our hands up to ask a question at school. Everything is very structured and very organized. So when someone sort of butts in, or when something happens that's a bit sort of jarring, or that's unpicked at, and that's laughed at, when that's seen as not so serious, it can really seem like a threat, and people can get quite angry. And I mean, I used to find that quite amusing. I hate to admit, it was sort of when people have that reaction, you think, I mean, until it gets to a point where it's not funny, but to a degree, it can be quite sort of poking the bear a little bit. It can be quite amusing. People get so wedded to their ideas and their beliefs. You can almost sort of think, well, this is good for you. This is good. A little bit of sort of poking these rigid belief systems can be quite therapeutic. But it seems to be so denigrated by society that it's almost a risk. And I think of the Guy Fawkes story, and Americans probably aren't familiar, but we had bonfire night in the UK on the 5th of November, and Guy Fawkes tried to blow up Parliament and ended up getting blown up himself, or he gets put on a bonfire. There's a literal cardboard cutout of this chap who, the gunpowder plot, he had an idea to plant a load of dynamite under the Houses of Parliament and blow up the political system. And every year we put a cardboard cutout of this guy on a bonfire and burn it. And there's even a bloody song, So it's a really serious crime. And that to me sort of embodies this energy of burning the system, which can be dangerous. It can be dangerous if it's like the fire. If it's not contained, it can be harmful. So I think, the jester, the dervish, the trickster, this sort of archetype, which can be quite amusing, but it can also have a sort of an edge sometimes to it. So it's one of those ones that needs to be managed. And maybe that's why some people find humor a bit awkward, or a bit risque as well, or a bit dark. Oh my God, did they just say that? That sort of quite shocking element to it. But then it's also quite appealing because, we're all quite drawn to that side that we commonly repress because it's not good. So yeah, I was just thinking of that. And the last thing I'll say about that is, which I quoted it in my book, is that the jester is the only one who can tell the truth to the king, because no one takes him seriously. So if you sort of dress yourself up as a clown, you know, you sort of say, oh, well, I'm just a daft idiot, you know, I've got a big red nose and a silly hat. Nobody's going to take you seriously. So you're actually the one who can probably speak the truth the most because nobody's expecting you to. So you get sort of led into the inner sanctum of the king's quarters, and then you can whisper a few home truths in his ear. But nobody was quite expecting it. So as Dave said, you sort of take that little side swipe, and that can be quite satisfying. So I think that's all to say about that, I think. Rosa, you've got your hand up.
I'm trying to catch up with this English language because you're very fast and a lot of words I don't know. But no, it's funny. It's funny. No need to understand anything, and just an impulse arising. Like it's a very natural thing, like to be happy, to smile, like childlike thing. Really like a childlike natural state, or like this, I would say. And yeah, very natural, very simple. Um, Maybe there is a difference with happiness, smiling, and humor. I'm just thinking about what is humor, making fun of, or, but yeah, going into this joy, the happiness, like the joy for no reason, the happiness for no reason. And yeah, of course, there is also a lot of humor then in life. Yeah, especially when things get hard. Yeah.
People who haven't spoken, does anybody, Razia, Wendy, Sylvan, Don or Joel, anybody have anything else I'd like to
Okay.
bring?
And what I think of humor. Yeah, they like what's her name? Rosa was saying. There are points like when you just feel like laughing, you know, you're really, it's like everything is funny. And I mean, obviously, you are in a sort of like a high or whatever that is, or you shift, then you kind of like find everything funny. And it's very hard to be serious. But at the same time, sometimes like Claire was saying, you can make people, you can annoy people by responding in ways that is unexpected, you know? Like I know I was listening to this lady talking, and sometimes you get to the state where, you know, hey, I know what she's going to say, like kind of a thing, you know? And you stop listening. And then she was telling me like someone died and this happened. And I was laughing because she was smiling, you know, when she told me that. But then what happens is when you think like, oh, I know what someone's going to say, and you switch off, and then suddenly they're talking about something like that, you know, and then you bring you back, and then you're so embarrassed you don't know what to say. And then I learned a joke. I learned a joke for today. And there was this man who went to a hotel, right? And he was staying there. And then the whole night, his wife was snoring and snoring. And he couldn't sleep, like, you know. So he said he tried everything to get her to sleep, and then she wouldn't. And I mean, to get her to stop snoring, and he couldn't stop her. And then he addressed this now to Toller because Toller was having a conference. And then Toller read it out at the conference, and he said, like, this man said he's tried everything, and what could he do now? And then he ends it off with awake at night. Well, it's a non-dual joke, awake at night only.
The only time we're ever awake when we're in deep sleep.
Me too. Awake at night only.
We'll add it to Tony's 2 tenths and create a non-dual joke book.
That's good.
Karina. Good night. Go and wake up in your deep sleep. Dave, you have your hand. Sorry, Razi, we finished?
Sweethearts, I want to, first of all, very happy to see you all. I will also boom into bed now. I have to get up early. Clare, thanks for the invite. So beautiful. And yeah, we stay
So
in
nice
touch.
to see you.
Enjoy, sweethearts. Bye-bye.
Bye.